First guy on my list is actually Jerome Ford, running back for the Cleveland Browns. Came out of Cincinnati, started his career at Alabama.
Right.
If you don't remember that, played behind Najee Harris, Damian Harris, so he didn't get a lot of reps. So he transferred to Cincinnati, where his career really took off. So he's used to having some patience back there. The biggest reason I like Jerome Ford as a sneaky buy, which you could literally probably get him for a 4th round pick possibly here right now. I'd like to throw him as a throw-in on the trade there, or a trade for draft day, because with Dearness Johnson being a free agent and Kareem Hunt being a free agent, this is a player they spent a 5th round pick on last year. This is a team that does not have a lot of draft capital due to the Deshaun Watson trade. So they have their 2nd. They have a compensatory pick in the 3rd for the Vikings hiring the GM. I forgot his name. I can't pronounce it. It's difficult.
Yep.
So they have a 3rd round pick too, but they don't have a lot of draft capital. So they have a lot of needs on defense, definitely the defensive line. So the odds of them using another one on a running back here don't seem very high. They also don't have a lot of salary cap. So they're not going to come in and sign somebody as well when they're already paying Nick Chubb. And it's easy to say, well, Nick Chubb's going to get all the carries, but that's not how Stefanski really runs his offense. If you watch the Browns, you would know that Nick Chubb's usually off on 3rd downs. And with Jerome Ford, what he brings in is somebody who's, yes, his vision's not great. It's probably his biggest knock, actually, is his vision. One of the greatest perks of joining the Nerd Herd is getting access to the Dynasty Nerds All 22 film library. You can save 15% off dynastynerds.com and get access to the film room using the promo code FILM15. But he's somebody who came in, played a little bit in November, and looked pretty good doing it. They put him in the kickoff spot. He looked really good. Somebody who could actually catch the ball. Didn't have a ton of carries coming out, obviously, because of playing Cincinnati, but Cleveland ran the ball last year. And I know this is going to be a different offense with Deshaun Watson, but they ran the ball on average 31.3 times a game this past year in 2022 on average, in which was 5th most in the NFL. Atlanta was number 1. They ran it 32.9 times a game, so it's a little bit more than one time more than Cleveland did. And with Ford, like I said, going back to probably like November, I mean, he showed he's pretty explosive at the running back position. So if he's going to come in and be the change of pace running back with Nick Chubb and be the 3rd down running back, he's just one injury away from Nick Chubb to be the starting running back for the Cleveland Browns and being viable that way. And we know definitely in Dynasty, like anytime you get any running back that has an opportunity, even anytime in the season, they hold value. So right now, I'm looking at Jerome Ford as a nice buy for a throw-in come draft day. Somebody likes my 4th round pick. Let me get Jerome Ford for that. It's a good situation for him. Good enough to get signed by Alabama. Again, just stuck behind guys like Josh Jacobs, Damian Harris, Najee Harris. But then help carry Cincinnati to the playoffs.
Yep.
The college football playoffs as well.
And that it is all about opportunity for him. I mean, with Kareem Hunt moving on and Dearness Johnson going away in free agency, likely going away in free agency, I think it's great for a guy like this who flashed a little bit and then kind of disappeared. He's fallen off a lot of people's radars, especially the people that don't follow really, really closely. So I think that does make him a nice guy to go out and I think target in the offseason, just because he's going to have a little bit of a depressed value. Just because if somebody just looks at his stats, they're not going to jump off the page at you as anything crazy. But it's a very different situation going into year 2, and I think he flashed enough that you go, oh, all right, I think this guy could do it if he gets the opportunity. So that's what I like about Jerome Ford. I do think that's a nice little buy because I think he's gonna be cheap, and all it takes, like you said, one injury, and then he's all of a sudden in your starting lineup.
There's not a lot of trades for Jerome Ford because he's not a highly coveted player up until this point. But there were some back in December, and you're right, 2 4ths for Jerome Ford. Colt McCoy, which I'm guessing that was when Kyler went down and he was the starter, so they needed somebody for a couple games.
Nice,
here's Jerome Ford.
Yeah, absolutely.
Matt Ryan, and you got Jerome Ford and a 4th. So, yeah, not much. Once people catch up that he's probably going to be the RB2 on the team, that price will probably go up. So this is the right time to go buy. My only question is, are we worried about Felton doing some things
No.
on third down, or do you
Not
think they've gotten to the
even a
point
little bit.
where they're kind of washing their hands of it?
And there's times that Felton was even inactive.
Yeah.
And I think he showed us enough that he'll 100% be active just because of what he does on special teams, returning kicks. Demetric Felton hasn't shown anything, even when given the opportunity.
He did his rookie season, but he was like non-existent this year.
And they drafted Jerome Ford
Yeah.
to take his place. So, I mean, they didn't need to draft Ford. They had Dearness Johnson. They had Kareem Hunt. It was kind of a surprise draft pick.
It was.
But they took best player available, and he's now going to find himself in an opportunity.
Yep.
Maybe they bring Dearness Johnson back. Maybe they don't. But like you said, with the Colt McCoy trade, this is a perfect opportunity even before draft time. Like right now, I'm like, hey, man, I'm just trying to shore up a couple things. Looks like you use a little bit of help. I'll take Jerome Ford. You know, like, or hey, you have this running back. I'll give you this backup. That's
Well, and guys
likely
love,
my
especially now that there's going to be a lot of players changing teams. You know, deep dynasty leagues, people love to have their quarterbacks backups. So maybe where does Derek Carr go? Okay, figure out who his backup is, and you could trade him for Jerome Ford then, or something like that.
Sure.
There's some risk here because there's a chance maybe the Browns draft somebody else in the fifth round pick. It's such a deep class, right? Maybe they use somebody in the fourth round. Maybe they bring back Dearness Johnson for cheap. Maybe Dearness Johnson can't find a contract due to the abundance of running backs that are free agents and how deep the class is. Maybe Dearness Johnson can come back on a minimum contract as well. So,
But there's no risk though. Like even though there's risk that could happen, like I lost my fourth. Dang it.
And the big thing here too is Andrew Berry, the GM of the Cleveland Browns, loves his draft picks. Like since he's been the GM of the Browns, he's cut one draft pick off of this roster. That is it.
Yeah.
He loves his draft picks. So the fact that Jerome Ford is his pick just last year, they do want to see these guys develop and give an opportunity. So I would, as somebody who's really familiar with the Browns, I think it's very likely that Jerome Ford will be the handcuff to Nick Chubb going into 2023. And with Deshaun Watson and this offense taking a change, we don't know how that's going to look, but we know the way Stefanski calls plays that he likes to run the ball, he likes to mix it, and the fact that he takes Nick Chubb out consistently on third down. And not only on third down, there'll be drives, like 2-minute drives when he'll take Nick Chubb out for entire series. It's
true.
So there's a possibility Ford could be potentially a flex play even in season if the cards play out. And then if Deshaun Watson goes down for any reason whatsoever, then it's going to be a heavy run game, and Jerome Ford will be involved.